Good day, everybody. Dave Walker here with the B to SMB Institute. And in our continuing series for this Best to SMB conference, we've invited nominees, executives from nominees to come talk about their nomination and talk about specifically, in this case, a product of the year nomination, and that was for Zoho One. So I'm pleased to welcome Raju Vegesna, who's the Chief Evangelist from Zoho. Welcome, Raju.
Thanks, Dave. Great to be here.
It's great to have you back. I don't presume, though, that everyone knows who you are. I hope that everyone knows who Zoho is. So why don't you just give us, for all of our new members, why don't you just give us a little quick background on you and on Zoho?
Sure. Again, I'm Raju Vegesna. I'm the Chief Evangelist at Zoho. Been with the company well over a couple of decades. And as a Zoho, been around for 25 years. Private company, profitable, one of those companies that executing things in a slightly, I guess, weird or different way. It's a different business where we look at the long-term horizon and execute things. And we serve a lot of small businesses. Currently, we serve over 500,000 businesses worldwide. We operate in 180 countries. We do have physical presence, feet on the ground in over 25 countries, and serve over 70 million users. And I think we have about 10,000 employees now as of this month. So it's growing, and we serve a lot of small businesses.
Now, you've always, your portfolio of products basically is all built around the Zoho name, but just mention some of the different applications that Zoho provides for small businesses.
Certainly. I think the way to look at our portfolio is, one, we have a lot of tools where you can run your entire business on the platform. Mm-hmm. You can break it up, say, what kind of tools do you need for marketing? What kind of tools do you need for sales? For sales, you need something like a CRM system. Mm-hmm. For marketing, you may need a social media marketing, email marketing. For customer support, we need some tools. Whether you're supporting customers through a phone or an email or a social media, you need some tools there. And we do have all those tools. If you're recruiting, you need some tools there. And of course, we all have to file our taxes. So you need an accounting system for that. And then collaborating, like getting on meetings, getting on webinars, email, and all of this internal collaboration or external collaboration, you need tools. So we have about 50 different tools within the Zoho portfolio where you can pretty much run your business online. Mm-hmm. And as a 10,000 employee company, we run Zoho on Zoho. Mm-hmm. And about 95% of our business is on Zoho today.
That's fascinating. And obviously proof that a very large scale business can run on this suite of individual tools. So our Leaders League and Influencer Circle nominated very specifically the Zoho One product as product of the year this year. Talk to us about a little bit about the history of Zoho One, how it came to be, and then really, is it fair to say it greatly accelerated this past year and had many more features and capabilities added to it? Is that a fair statement?
It's a fair statement, Dave. I think what happened in the past, or maybe let me step back and talk about Zoho One itself, where the journey started about 10 years back, where we realized that we started creating products for our own use. And getting into it, we realized that there's a lot of tools that we needed, and we didn't think about it as we got started. But every product we created, we needed 2 or 3 other products to complement it. And then it kept on going. And we were selling these tools. It's like purchasing a Phillips screwdriver separately and another wrench separately and another thing separately. We have to put together a toolkit here, not just sell individual tools. And Zoho One is that toolkit. You can certainly buy these tools separately, but
Mm-hmm.
with Zoho One, you get all the tools. And we keep improving all the tools all the time, and we keep adding more tools to it. But this is your small business toolkit that you need to run your business. And that's essentially the concept of Zoho One, where you can pretty much run your business on Zoho One.
And was the value? I love the analogy of the toolbox. I mean, because it visually kind of describes how it's all contained in one. But what do you think are the most important features of Zoho One that really enhance the value of the individual tools inside the
Yeah.
toolbox?
It is, this is the case where 1 + 1 = 3, where,
Mm-hmm.
when you receive, let's say you're a restaurant owner, when you receive that phone call from your prospect, maybe wanting to place an order, wouldn't it be nice to know who exactly is calling and that information shown in your computer right there? Wouldn't it, that can only happen when your telephony system, the telephony tool, works well with your customer tool like a CRM.
Mm-hmm.
And wouldn't it be nice when that customer information that is shown also displays the total value of that customer, how many orders that customer has placed historically, and what is the
Mm-hmm.
total value of that customer? Sometimes that exists in your accounting system, and when that automatically is pulled into in your customer system while you pick up the call, wouldn't it be nice? And
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't it be nice if that feedback from a customer, that the survey they may have taken, is reflected right there? So this is where it is not just selling individual tools, it is tying all of these loose ends and presenting a comprehensive solution. And
Mm-hmm.
that is what Zoho One is. So it is tying everything together, providing an integrated and a unified solution. That's
Mm-hmm.
the difference.
And how did you? I'm kind of I'm always fascinated by product development stories that really depend on integration, like what Bill Furlong has done with SquareStack and others. I mean, it's and the reason why I'm fascinated with it is because I'd love you to describe the process of taking the disparate demands and needs that a small business has, like you just described inside of a restaurant. That knowledge of the customer may exist in a back room somewhere where it really needs to be is right here when the phone gets answered. But how did you process map this? How did you basically create the product to be that hub to draw in all these different data points, all these different processes into one?
Frankly, we started solving our own problem, Dave. We are a business, and our systems were siloed initially,
Mm-hmm.
and we are a tool provider. And we said, why don't we solve our problem? There are hundreds of, or actually hundreds of thousands, in this case, millions of businesses that have the same problem. Why
Mm-hmm.
don't we solve it? The advantage we had is we are the tool provider, and we said we need to create a lot of tools and then integrate all of them together.
Mm-hmm.
So it started there, and that idea, when we put two products together, that idea started resonating with a lot of people. This is no different historically, where Microsoft put together a word processor and a spreadsheet and a presentation tool together and called it an Office.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can't think of these as independent tools.
Right.
But we said, why should it be restricted to those 3 or 4 alone? Why can't it be 40 or 50 or more applications?
Mm-hmm.
And we think this is the real Office, where you pretty much provide all the tools a business needs. And once you tie one application with another, that opens up a whole lot of new possibilities. And customers keep pushing us on that front, saying, okay,
Mm-hmm.
how about this? How about that? And then we
Mm-hmm.
kept on knitting these together. Now, on a weekly basis, we launch 4 or 5 integrations.
Mm-hmm.
But then, but every time we launch a product, that adds another 100 possible integrations to that list. And this is going to be a multi-year, if not multi-decade, process of
Mm-hmm.
improving these solutions. You're weaving the fabric in this case.
What's the onboarding and the training process for the user of Zoho One?
That's a very good question. The onboarding training varies for every single business.
Mm-hmm.
And we have an onboarding team where after they start looking at Zoho One, they spend some time with us. A typical customer says, these are the challenges I'm trying to address. And the
Mm-hmm.
challenges vary by business. Certainly there are some commonalities.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, okay, we are going to help you out. And we typically help them out on the onboarding, either directly or indirectly through our partner ecosystem. One thing we notice is because there are 50 tools, they get so excited wanting to implement everything. We had to pull them back and say, one bite at a time. It can get quickly overwhelming, one bite at a time. And, they start implementing one application and then the second one, the third one. And what we have noticed is on an average, our businesses or customers enable about 21 applications within
Wow.
the Zoho
Okay.
One suite. That's certainly surprising. And that number is inching up. About 2 years back, that was about 18.
Mm-hmm.
And during the pandemic, it's about 21. And there's some applications like collaboration applications bubbled up to the top, for obvious reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So like that, the 21 applications that are enabled by business for every business varies by business, the vertical they are in, the region they are in, the size of the business, their revenue. All of these things do play a role in defining what the combination of those 20 plus applications are.
Now, do you find that I don't want to presume that the cost of onboarding and servicing those clients as they get up to 21 different applications that they're using, I don't want to assume that it is very expensive, but it clearly I would imagine it would be a big investment of time on your part to make sure that you are on a one-by-one basis, training basically and adapting the needs of that small business to what you can do. Is it an expense that you believe is worth it? And I'm certain you do, but why is it worth it to do that?
It totally is worth it. And note that it's not just us doing it. It is our partner ecosystem that is working with us doing it. Because we cannot throw a bunch of applications and say, hey, here you can run your entire business on Zoho without, and then shove an 800 number out there. There has to be a door to knock on or a neck to choke, right? And that is us, our people on the field, helping them out, or our local partners from the local city, helping them out with the solution. And that is something that we offer. So that is the reason we are expanding our presence, in several locations globally, and of course, regionally, to help more and more. After our engineering investment, the number two area where we invest a lot on is customer support service, helping onboarding all of these. This is the reason for that investment. And that's absolutely important. It's part of the experience.
And how do you tell me a little bit about the process of training the trainers? How do you go about really preparing those people who are charged with that kind of onboarding service? How do you get them good at doing what they do?
It's a long process. They start with one product, learning one product, and helping customers initially through chat and then email, and then they graduate to phone call, helping them out, and then they expand the scope to the second product and the third product. After a few years, they get good at addressing the problems for wide set of products and also wide set of customers across the board. So only after they reach a certain level, we put them in front of these Zoho One customers, because with 50 apps, the scope is much, much wider. That also means training is a challenge internally. You need someone to be good at a broad set of products and help customers across various things. In other words, you're generating a team of consultants that are consulting the customer and helping them drive their business, improve their business. And these are business consultants, architects, solution consultants, solution architects that we're training. And that takes a multi-year process.
And in the kind of the broad landscape of product development for small businesses, SaaS products in particular, do you believe that the trend, that the future, the success in the future is really going to be built on convergent products, or are we still going to see a large population of individual tools that are really good, engineered really well to solve one problem, or will it continue to be really a combination of both? Where do you see the future?
I think there is going to be, the pendulum is swing towards integrated suites. And in this case, everything is aligned. All stars are aligned in that direction. Today, there are about over 20,000, or actually more than 30,000 individual tools out there. So there are three different ways to it. Why will the market move towards integrated suites? One, customers are tired of knitting them together because they spend 3 to 5 times on implementation than the software. In other words, if you spend $100 on purchasing software, you're spending $500 to make that software work for your business. That is for 2 pieces of software. Imagine how will it be if it is 30, 40 pieces of software. From a customer's point of view, it makes sense. From a company's point of view, if you only have one product to sell, well, the cost of customer acquisition is increasing. So, and you only have one thing to sell. You're inviting someone to your retail store and you only have one product to sell. Well, you need more tools. So that's where companies are acquiring more companies, and there's a consolidation coming. And then most of these companies are invested VCs, right? Invested by VCs, and they need a return on investment. That means either go public or acquire or be sold. Being sold means being acquired by other companies. So from an investor point of view, from a company's point of view, as well as the customer's point of view, there is a alignment of the goal, which is integrated solutions. And for us, the customer driver becomes the main driver. So there's no question that the integrated suites are the future. And you see those signs in the direction in the market, where the direction of every company is going to be these suites.
So do you think that first of all, I fully agree with you. We did in the process of building our B2SMB 3000 directory, which was trying to identify all of the players that were out there selling products and services to small businesses. So it was a bunch of college summer interns that were toiling away in my basement this summer to really establish the list. And my criteria was very, very simple. Find for me every product and service in 30 different categories that has more than 25 online reviews for it, as a benchmark of, yes, they really exist. They're not just theoretical. They're not just kind of flash in the pan. And it was over 7,800, 7,800 just in the US. And it was horrifying. So I agree with you. Integration has to happen. The market needs to settle down and start focusing on those things that are the most needed. But I'm curious, what do you think are going to be the overarching technologies or capabilities that are going to really drive integration? For instance, will it be artificial intelligence and machine learning? Is that something that's going to really play a big role? Is cryptocurrency going to play a big role? What are the things that you see from where you sit that are going to really have a big impact on how you continue to evolve the Zoho One product?
I think the way we see it evolve is the end goal with Zoho One is people should be able to do things without having to learn something. So in other words, technology wins if people don't think they're using technology. It's just part of it, and it's so easy that anyone can do it. And so if someone has to think about artificial intelligence, machine learning, and all of that, then I consider that a loss. If AI works beautifully when people don't know that they're using AI,
right?
And that is what we are going towards, and certainly on the Zoho side. In other words, within Zoho One, if you go and type something like, show me all the contracts I signed with this customer. Today, the problem is the contracts may exist in your CRM system, They may exist in your document management system. They may exist in your electronic signature system. You have to go determine which tool to use first and how to pull that information. If technology works well, it does its job and pulls everything together from disparate systems and presents it to you. That's what I mean by directly working and not having to think about AI, ML, and whatnot. But to make that work, to make it so simple, AI, ML, and all of those do play a very, very critical role. The user should not know that they are using AI, ML. So that is where a lot of tech goes in there, but it should be hidden from the user where it should just work. And that's certainly the goal with Zoho One.
Why don't you talk about two populations or segments that I think are that draw a lot of attention currently. The first one is really startups, those small businesses that are really starting, and so many, I think, as the data really starts to accumulate, that there are a vast number of people who started small businesses or became entrepreneurs over the course of the last year or year and a half for frankly a variety of reasons, but most of them were pandemic related. Something happened and it really triggered them to go in that direction. So that's a wildly emerging population who may have never operated a business before and frankly don't know what they need in the form of tools. And the other, I guess, that's an important one is that's drawn a lot of attention are underserved communities, those small business communities that really have been underfinanced, undereducated, under tech supported, under everything. How do you envision Zoho One becoming a tool for either one of those?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Dave. I think the first one, historically we have seen that whenever there is something like a pandemic or a downturn, the number of businesses created accelerates. On average, we used to have 2+ million businesses create here in US. This time, last year or so, it's been 4+ million, and it always happens. And that is a great opportunity for new businesses to thrive, and it's always good to see that. Now, one of the aims of Zoho is to make sure that we offer products to people who are otherwise ignored. And the products are created using talent that is otherwise ignored and in places that are otherwise ignored. And it's not just one or the other. All three are extremely important. If you look at where we set up our offices, the last 3 offices we set up in Texas are in rural locations, right? And these are people who had to be uprooted to go to an urban place to even find a job. Said, why should we uproot them? Why can't we take the opportunity to where the talent is? Now, the same way, even if you look at the software and the pricing, they do play a very critical role. In a lot of cases, a lot of businesses or software is priced out of a lot of businesses. It's out of reach because it's become really, really expensive. And that is a critical role here, where we want to make sure that the price is affordable, extremely affordable. To just give you a data point, $37 a month is what it costs for Zoho One, an employee. And all the 50 products. It started at 30, by the way. Right. And we kept on adding another, more apps. And
that's only 3 days of coffee, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. And we look at it in a global scale, because we're on one side, we are talking about the developed country like US. But at $37 is considered expensive, extremely expensive if you go to Indonesia, if you go to, say, Mexico, or if you go to China, India, Philippines, all of these. So we do really well in these countries, primarily because it is affordable even in these communities. So when the overall per capita GDP is low, is the product affordable? And we try to optimize it for those communities and teams where anyone in the world should be able to afford our software. And that's a very, very critical piece. So that is how where now all of a sudden world-class software is not restricted to these large enterprises. Now it is available for small businesses. In fact, we are noticing these, that the cutting edge businesses that are jumping on to these latest ones are the ones that are offering a better experience than the enterprises, because enterprises were stuck on legacy systems out there. And we are noticing that small businesses now have better technology than larger enterprises, and they can afford it. Now, a lot of these cases, for a business to survive and to survive long term, the input costs of a business should be low. In other words, your expenses have to be lower than what you make, right? Simple.
Right.
We don't want to be a costly input for our customers.
Right.
So, because if we become a costly input, then we become a burden to our customers. And then what's the point? We are hurting the customer, not helping them. So we want to be a good, well-priced option for a lot of businesses. And we ourselves are in that model where we try to monitor our costly inputs, because what we produce and what we think we produce is a commodity. Software is a commodity where anyone, anywhere in the world should be able to afford it. So we call it costly inputs, commodity output. And we try to eliminate our costly inputs as a company, and we do not want to be a costly input to our customers. So that price equation is certainly one part, and that makes sure that it is delivered to all communities across the board and across the world.
Yeah, nothing democratizes things more than just simply having fair pricing, right? Just having something that people can afford. And I dare say, and I don't really mean, again, to speak ill of anyone, but I think the notion that we're going to charge a small business for our product or our server stack or our subscription service, as much as our P&L suggests we should, so that we can make money for our investors, is completely backwards, because in some ways you're injuring your customer. You're creating an unhealthy customer who will be hobbled by the expense of whatever the lease is, whatever the investment is, whatever the costs are, or worse yet, they'll never actually be able to buy it. So it's a barrier. It's a barrier for them being able to compete. So I applaud you for taking, as you always do, a very different point of view, a very different perspective.
And part of the reason is prioritizing customers and employees over investors thing. So partly because investors' interests are not always aligned with employees and customers' interests.
Right. That's terrific. So, cast your eye forward with Zoho One, and where is the product now kind of on a trajectory that almost sustains itself? I mean, almost creates itself, because it knows what it needs to do in the form of continuing to ask small businesses, what tools do you need? And they just simply get put inside the tool set in a sensible way. Or is there over the horizon something different that you potentially see?
There is something different, Dave, where we are still in the first innings here, Zoho One, and we are in the fourth year of Zoho One launch, and it's already become the #1 product in Zoho, and accelerating fast. But we have learned a lot in the last 4 years. Now we are going back to the drawing board and say, based on what we have learned, and we have about 45,000 businesses on Zoho One, trusting the concept of that being the operating system for their business. Now, based on that, we are making a lot of changes internally. And what we'll see is you will not be able to tell the difference when one application ends and another application begins. We say Zoho One is a collection of 50 apps, but what if Zoho One is one? What if all the applications behave as a unified entity, just like your business is a unified entity?
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of cases, if the software and the systems are siloed, organization also gets siloed and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
But what if the organization and the software is unified, and what if software can play a role in unifying the organization by
Mm-hmm.
integrating the fundamental and underlying systems?
Mm-hmm.
And that is where we are headed. And
Mm-hmm.
there is a 5 to 10 year roadmap here, and
Mm-hmm.
we are just getting started.
That's very cool. So would you say, because actually I think this is the topic for when next we meet. This is the only time we ever get a chance to talk is actually when we do these sessions. um, but do you think that really that the engineering, the product development, perhaps of Zoho One, but really more broadly stated, is going to be driven by the user experience, by the user expectation, by the user need, versus I have a, you know, I sometimes wonder, how did certain physical tools get invented? You know, who actually invented the saw? I mean, who actually said, I'm going to take this piece of steel and I put a bunch of, I'm going to carve a bunch of teeth in it, and that's how I'm going to cut down a tree. An axe, I get. An axe is kind of like, I'm going to pick up a sharp rock, but a saw is a little harder. But it really, I guess my question is it the user experience that's really going to drive? That's going to be really how we envision successful products in the future.
It certainly is the user experience, but it doesn't get created overnight. It takes
Mm-hmm.
about, say, 5-10 years
Mm-hmm.
to get to that stage. In other words, Zoho One wouldn't have been created 10 years back, though we had the idea, because the maturity and the tools and all of those have to be there. And so it simply takes that time to get to that maturity.
Mm-hmm.
So, user experience plays a pivotal role, and as we go through it, that user experience will vary if you are an enterprise versus a small business versus a solopreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And how does that user experience look, and how do we do it? And a user experience for a real estate or a realtor is different from
Mm-hmm.
a general contractor, is different from a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we take a horizontal platform like Zoho One and offer a unique solution for each of these verticals? These
Mm-hmm.
are all going to be, some of the defining factors as we move forward.
That's terrific. As always, it's a pleasure. It's always instructive. It's always informative. Congratulations again. I think well deserved in nominating Zoho One as Product of the Year, and we'll be announcing on Tuesday night. And good luck.
Thanks a lot, Dave. Really appreciate it. Thank you for having me again.
All right. Thank you.